This is part 4 of Charlie's story. It is June the 14th, 2013. For Charlie and Claire Christian, it has been 4 years since they lost their cattle and just over 3 since their sons and daughters died in a thunderstorm. They were still struggling emotionally and financially while attempting to raise 4 grandchildren. Through it all, they desperately hung on to their faith. They were totally unaware of the next trial that awaited them.
Another challenge. And the Lord said to Satan, "Have you considered my servant Job, that there is none like him on the earth, a blameless and upright man, who fears God and turns away from evil? He still holds fast his integrity, although you incited me against him to destroy him without reason." Then Satan answered the Lord and said, "Skin for skin. All that a man has he will give for his life. But stretch out your hand and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse you to your face." And the Lord said to Satan, "Behold, he is in your hand. Only spare his life." Job, 2nd chapter, 3rd through the 6th verses. Margie's, June 14th, 2013, Friday morning, Margie's Cafe. It has been just over 3 years since the tornado that took the lives of all 5 of Charlie's sons and daughters. During that time, Jack's friendship with Charlie has gotten much stronger as Jack worked to help Charlie in his efforts to rebuild his ranch. He played an essential role as Charlie's encourager. Throughout Charlie's troubles, he continued his regular Friday morning meetings with Dale, Jack, and Chris at Margie's Cafe. Devlin stopped coming to the group shortly after the tornado, and no one in the group had heard from him in over 2 years. On this particular Friday, Charlie was not there. "Morning, guys." Chris opened up the conversation. "You will never believe who I spoke with this week. I've been trying to contact Devlin pretty regularly, but he hasn't returned any of my calls. I finally talked with him yesterday. He said he had been going through some personal issues. I think I may have convinced him to show up this morning." "That would be great," Dale responded. "I've tried to call him a few times myself." "Hey, where's Charlie this morning?" "Today would be Taylor's 25th birthday," Jack answered. "He and Claire have committed to spending the day together. We need to keep them in our prayers. This kind of grief never goes away. Holidays, birthdays, and special days are especially hard." Just then, the bell hanging on the door inside Margie's diner chimed its familiar tone, and Devlin Barber walked in and greeted the other men at the table. He looked like he had lost a good bit of weight and wore a patch over his left eye. "Hey, boys, it's been a while," Devlin began. "Chris convinced me to show up, so here I am." "Devlin, good to have you here." "You look pretty rough," Jack began. "What's up with the eye?" "I have been through some problems of my own," Devlin answered. "I lost my eye to a beer bottle in a bar fight down in Junction City." "A bar fight?" Chris spoke up. "Long story," Devlin responded. "Say, where's Charlie this morning? I heard that he went through a tough spell a couple of years back." Jack was troubled by Devlin's cavalier attitude. "I would think that the death of all your children would be more than what you would call a tough spell," Jack responded with air quotes. Dale spoke up. "Charlie and Claire are spending the day together. I'm sure he would like to see you again. Anyway, is there a story behind this bar fight?" "Well, there was this woman who worked down at the courthouse," Devlin began. "She told me she was having trouble with her husband. One thing led to the next, and, well..." Devlin paused. "Turns out he was in the Army, a staff sergeant stationed at Fort Riley." "Wait a minute, Devlin," Chris interrupted. "What about your own wife? What about Sharon?" I didn't show up this morning for a lecture. Devlin's response was defensive. It's all right, Devlin, Jack spoke up. This just caught us off guard. We want to help if we can. Sorry, guys, Devlin answered. I didn't mean to get defensive. It's just that I don't need a Sunday school lesson right now. Sharon and I were already having problems. This incident put the finishing touches on my marriage. But that wasn't really my fault. If Sharon was anything like Charlie's wife, his voice trailed off. Anyway, Devlin continued. This woman flirted with me and told me that her marriage was on the rocks. Apparently, this soldier didn't take too kindly to my relationship with his wife. We got into it at that bar, and he ended up breaking a beer bottle over my eye. Put me in the hospital, and now the eye is gone. I hate to hear that, Dale responded. Is there anything we can do? Not really, Devlin answered. So, what's the deal with Charlie these days? Is he still active in church after his ordeal a couple of years ago? In all reality, Chris addressed the question. Charlie and Claire are still struggling with other issues that have come up since the storm. And yes, Charlie is still very involved. He's certainly an inspiration to me. I think I would fold up like a cheap suit if I had to go through what he was. Devlin, Jack interjected. Charlie went through a year where he lost almost all of his sources of income. The ranch is far more than just a piece of property. His entire income came from the livestock that was killed. He found out his insurance was no good right before a fire that killed some really good men and destroyed a barn and bunkhouse that he and his father had built by their own hands. To top it off, he buried all of his children. What you may not know, Dale stepped in, is that Cody, one of the younger ranchers who were killed, had just become the father of a young son who was born with Down syndrome. Cody's father and mother were killed in a car accident when he was just a teen. Charlie and Claire brought him to the ranch, kept him off the streets, and mentored him to be a fine young man. And now, Chris interrupted, Charlie and Claire are acting like adopted grandparents to the boy and his mom. All this, Jack continued, while they are raising 4 of their own natural grandchildren. That's quite a story, Devlin responded. How is Charlie doing now? Well, Devlin, Jack answered, the past couple of years have not been a piece of cake either. Claire was diagnosed and treated for breast cancer last year. She endured surgery and chemo while she was taking care of those kids. She is not completely out of the woods yet, but she is recovering. Claire had taken a side job with a real estate company, Jack continued. She was trying to help rebuild the ranch, raise 4 kids, and bring in a little extra income for the family. When she was diagnosed, her income went down, along with her physical energy. Top that off with some out-of-pocket medical expenses, and that family is fighting some hellacious battles. Dale concluded, they are real fighters. I suspect they are feeling a lot more pain than they are showing. But you know, what is really amazing is that their faith is still strong. I don't know about that, Devlin replied. They could be faking it in front of all their church friends. Besides, Claire is recovering, and Charlie still has his own health to carry him through. I'm not ever getting this eye back. He pointed to the patch over his eye. He needs to be thankful he's still got his health. I doubt his so-called faith would remain strong if something happened to his health. At this point, Jack was ready to come over the table. Devlin, you are way over the line with this. I wouldn't blame Charlie if he did waver in his faith. But I know the man very well. As for you, your injury was the result of your own recklessness. Chris put his hand up to Jack. Look, Devlin. His voice was more controlled than Jack's. I am sorry for your problems. All of us are. But there's no need to compare trials. Maybe you will come to a place in your life where you see God as an answer for your own problems. In the meantime, we will continue to pray for you, just like we've been praying for Charlie and their family. I don't need your prayers, Devlin responded. You guys can keep on believing what you want, but I'm sincere when I tell you that I truly hope Charlie gets better, and I don't want anything else to happen to him. At that, Devlin stood up to leave. Guys, I really appreciate the invitation. Maybe I'll drop by again sometime in the future. As he walked out the door, Chris looked at the others. Man, I had no idea Devlin would respond that way. Jack, I know he got under your skin, but Devlin probably needs our prayers more than Charlie. I can't argue with that, Jack answered. We'll just keep him in our prayers. I will give Charlie a call tomorrow and update him on Devlin. You know, fellas, Jack continued, I thought I knew Charlie pretty well before we started having all these problems, but over the past couple of years, I've gotten pretty close to the man. I've tried to help as much as he will let me, but Charlie is a man who always thinks of others first. The more you get to know him, the more you have to admire his character. Jack, Chris interjected, you can't let a man like Devlin get under your skin. This nonsense about Charlie. The gall it takes to say the man is faking it for his church friends. I'm sorry, Chris, Jack responded. You're right, but I really think he is hoping Charlie would contract a major disease or something, just to prove a point. More likely, Dale responded. Devlin may just be covering for his own character issues. If you ask Charlie about this, he would probably see it as an opportunity for us to show grace. I don't doubt that. I really don't, Jack concluded. Charlie has more patience than I will ever have. Hey, Margie, Dale called out. It looks like I drew the short straw this morning. Ring us up and we will get on with the day. Urethro what? June 17th, 2013, Monday. What is your day looking like? Charlie asked Claire as she was getting ready for work. Just a routine day. I will probably get off by noon. I have a lot of work to do here when I get home, Claire responded. What's on your plate? Charlie answered. I need to ride into town this morning. I have some things to pick up at the co-op. After that, I will be getting some physical work done around here. I need to take my mind off the bigger issues and just sweat it out. Well, at least the weather will be mild today, Claire answered. The forecast is in the mid-80s. Still, be sure to stay hydrated. You know, Claire, Charlie continued, we really work so well together. It may take us a long time. We will rebuild this ranch. As Claire put her arms around Charlie, she noticed something on the back of his neck. Sweetheart, you have some blemishes on the back of your neck. In fact, it looks like it's all over the top of your back. It's been itching for the past couple of days, Charlie answered, especially in the shower. Probably something I got into around the ranch. Do you think it may be poison ivy or some bug bites? I don't think so, Claire answered. Let me put something on it to stop the itch. If it doesn't go away in a couple of days, you may need to have a doctor take a look. I'm sure it's no big deal. Charlie dismissed the problem. Later in the day, Charlie was working to repair a fence post that was beginning to rot. He reached his hand behind his neck to scratch the itch. As he brought his hand back down, he noticed some blood on his fingers. Again, he thought, I probably scratched a little too hard. The skin lesions had spread across Charlie's shoulders and halfway down his right arm by Friday. At Claire's insistence, Charlie scheduled an appointment with his family doctor for that afternoon. Josh Brogan had been Charlie's primary care doctor since Charlie was 18 years old. It only took him a few minutes to provide his initial assessment. Charlie, this is not an allergic reaction, Doc Brogan began. It might be eczema. It could be psoriasis. I can't be totally sure without more testing. I'm concerned that it has developed so quickly. I'm going to order some blood work, and then I want you to see a dermatologist. they will want you to take a biopsy. Oh, great. Charlie was clearly frustrated. I have so much going on, and I don't really have the time or money to go back and forth to specialists. Charlie, this may not be serious at all, Doc Bogan responded, but if I were you, I would want to get some answers. We won't overload you with unnecessary tests. Claire, who sat quietly through the entire conversation, spoke up. He will be there, Doc. I'll make sure of that. Directing herself to Charlie, she was uncompromising. Charlie, when I was diagnosed with cancer, you wouldn't take no for an answer to them ordering tests. You're going to follow up on this if I have to drag you myself. Yes, ma'am, Charlie responded with a smile. Claire set up an appointment for Thursday afternoon, and Charlie complied with her wishes. By that time, the itching had intensified. Charlie didn't think it would be anything serious. He was hoping they would have some easy over-the-counter medicine that would get him through the discomfort. His condition was more complicated. As they began testing for various skin diseases, Charlie's skin lesions began to get much worse and started spreading rapidly across his body. There was itching, swelling, and increased pain levels by the time he was admitted to Stormontville Hospital in Topeka. Endodermic psoriasis is the official name of your condition, Charlie. The words of his doctors were completely foreign to Charlie. Sounds impressive, came Charlie's attempt at some medical humor. What does that mean? The doctor answered, well, the best way I can describe it is that it is a form of psoriasis. It's what we call an autoimmune disease for which there is no cure, but most of the symptoms are somewhat manageable. This form of psoriasis disrupts your body's normal temperature and fluid balance. This may lead to shivering episodes and swelling from fluid retention in parts of the body, such as the feet or ankles. You may also have a higher risk of infection, pneumonia, and heart failure, the doctor explained. Come on, Doc, Charlie quipped. You are making this sound like a big-time medical problem. Stop kidding around, Charlie. Claire's tone of voice made it clear she knew this wasn't a laughing matter. Charlie, you and Claire need to learn to recognize triggers that can cause this condition to turn from itching and redness to downright deadly, he instructed. So that's the good news, came Charlie's retort. What's the bad news? Knock it off, Charlie. Claire was clearly agitated at Charlie's cavalier attitude. This sounds very serious. Doc, what are the treatments? And what do we need to expect going forward? Well, Claire, you're right in saying that this can be serious, the doctor explained. I'm going to work up a treatment plan specifically for your husband. In the meantime, this disease will fluctuate. Symptoms will lessen for a while, and then they will intensify at times. Please understand, we need to take this serious. Endodermic psoriasis can be fatal, but with lifestyle changes, it is still very manageable. We just don't want to mess around with it. With minor flare-ups, you will want to consider using wet rags or towels. More or less, wrap him up in them to relieve the pain. Oatmeal baths can help. Severe emotional stress is a trigger that can affect your heart. If you notice an increase in your heart rate, you will need to find a quiet place to calm your emotions. If that continues for too long, you're going to the emergency room. As the doctor left the room, Claire turned to Charlie. Please, Charlie, this is serious. We have to take this seriously. I have lost so much. I can't stand the thought of losing you. Just then, Charlie's frustration raised its ugly head. His voice was sarcastic. Claire, I'm trying to hold it all together. My life, our lives are already an ugly nightmare, and I can't wake up. I keep asking God to intervene. My prayers are going nowhere. Don't put this on my shoulders. Seriously? Claire came back. Do you think my cancer battle was a joyride? At what point did you let me give up? Don't you think I wanted to roll over and die? No, sir. You kept telling me to have faith in God. You said God would carry us through. Have you forgotten your own words? Or do you just have selective memory? Claire continued her tirade. So is your faith just a show? Why do you pretend to have faith? If you're giving up, why don't you just shake your fist at God, cuss him out, then roll over into your pity party and die? Charlie was stunned by what Claire said to him. Then he realized that he was the one letting her down. Claire, I am sorry. This whole ordeal has affected both of us. I know you didn't mean what you said, but I deserved it. Charlie drew his wife into his arms and whispered through the tears, Baby, I am so sorry. These are our battles, not just mine. I'm living out my own pity party without considering your feelings. I do have faith, Charlie continued. In my heart, I want to believe, but my mind is all over the place. It would be foolish to turn away from God, especially in the midst of this trial. We look to him during the good times. We cannot turn away during our trials. Please forgive me for my selfishness, Charlie concluded. You know me well enough to know that I will get over my self-pity, and we will fight this battle together in the same way we have fought all of the others. Ice Cream Saturday. Saturday, August 17th, 2013. Charlie was sitting on the steps of his back porch. His face was a mixture of sweat and tears. He had been working with his horses, but the summer sun and sweat had just made his itching skin turn to fire. Charlie whispered a quiet prayer with his head in his hands. It was a plea for relief. Lord, I can't get any relief. This itch and this pain are more than I can handle. I need to pull it together for the sake of these children. In Psalm 91, you promised to provide an angel to watch over me. Lord, I really need that angel today. Charlie put his hand on the neck of his buddy Bandit when a tiny hand touched his left arm. Granddaddy, I love you. The tiny voice was that of Charlie's 5-year-old granddaughter, Hannah. Can I sit with you? Of course, you little rascal. Charlie grabbed her and pulled her close. What you been doing this morning? Granddaddy, does it hurt? Hannah asked as she reached out a finger to touch one of the lesions on Charlie's arms. You can touch it, sweetheart. It isn't contagious, Charlie answered. It mainly itches, but sometimes it hurts. Granddaddy's gonna be all right. You don't need to worry. Charlie tried to reassure her. Granddaddy, Hannah inquired, what's contagious? Charlie laughed. Contagious is like when you get sick, and other people can get sick when they are around. But you can't catch my skin rash from me because it's not contagious. God answered my prayer for an angel. Charlie chuckled. This little angel is very special. Thank you, Lord. Hey, you know what? Charlie continued. I bet this would be a good day for you and me to ride down to Cream Cup for some ice cream. What do you think? Yes, sir, came the excited voice of this 5-year-old little girl. Okay, why don't you round everybody up? Charlie answered, and we'll take a ride into town. After getting their ice cream, Charlie and his 4 grandchildren climbed up in the bed of Charlie's truck for a party, right there in the gravel parking lot. As Charlie sat on the end of the tailgate, Hannah stayed close to his side. Granddaddy. Her big blue eyes looked straight into his. You know I pray for you every day. Charlie bowed his head and whispered quietly, Lord, thank you for sending this angel to watch over me. How can I ask for more? Benjamin, August 24th, 2013, Saturday. Benji Begay was the son of Dakota, Cody, and Deani Begay. His godparents were Claire and Charlie Christian. Benji was born on August 24th, 2018, and came into this world with Down syndrome. Today marks his 5th birthday, and a party was in order. Cody had been much more than a friend and ranch worker. Charlie treated him like a son. He came to Shiloh at the age of 16 and proved himself to be a hard worker with a compassionate heart. Shortly after moving to the ranch, he developed a strong relationship with Caleb and Jesse. They, in turn, treated him like a brother. Cody's death hit both of them particularly hard. As for Deani, nearly 4 years have passed since her husband's death. Deani was struggling to raise her son as a single mother. Charlie and Claire maintained a close relationship with Benji and Deani despite their own difficulties, making sure that her and Benji's needs were met. Despite the circumstances, this was a day of celebration. Noah, Hannah, Leah, and Abby crowded around the picnic table on Charlie's back patio. Benji's eyes lit up when he saw the lighted candles on his birthday cake. "Look at these kids, Charlie," Claire commented. "Not a worry in the world." "And they sure love Benji," Charlie answered. "He is like a brother to them, and Benji loves them back. I just wish Cody was here to see his own little boy." Charlie wiped a tear from his cheek. "Do you think Deani's all right?" Claire asked. "I am sure she is struggling," Charlie answered. "We just need to make sure we are available to help when she needs us." In the midst of Benji's birthday celebration, Charlie's skin condition had gotten much more painful. While he struggled to keep up a happy countenance, the pain was reaching an unbearable level. Deep inside, Charlie knew that he would be back in the hospital in the next couple of days. As Deani and Benji pulled out of sight, Charlie's emotions and the discomfort of his condition began to take center stage. As they finished cleaning up the patio area, Claire noticed Charlie beginning to shake and struggle for his breath. "Sweetheart, you need to sit down. I can finish up here," she expressed her concerns. "Do we need to go to the hospital tonight?" "Give me a few minutes," Charlie answered as he sat down in one of the Adirondack chairs. "When I spend time with Benji, my mind always wanders back to Cody and his relationship with our own kids. I wish he was here. I wish they were all here. I watched Deani today, and although she seemed happy enough, I can't help thinking about her struggle." Charlie managed a night of restless sleep, but the following morning brought another trip to the hospital's emergency room. Eli, Mercy Hospital, January 6th, 2014, Thursday. In 1996, the Memorial Hospital System and St. Mary's Hospital merged to form the Mercy Hospital System in Manhattan, Kansas. All of Charlie's children and grandchildren were born here. Charlie's painful disease and its lesions had become a part of his daily life. But, as his physicians had warned him, erythrodermic psoriasis would occasionally lead to a short stay in the hospital. This was Charlie's third major flare-up, and it came with fluctuations in body temperatures and abnormal fluid retention. Without the treatment, he was at a much higher risk for infections and pneumonia. Although the disease could lead to death, the treatments themselves were not complex. The goal was to restore his body's fluid levels and get his temperature back to normal. Charlie was in good spirits. Nurses took better care of his lesions than he usually did at home. Their personal attention lessened the itching and pain. A few hours after he got settled in, there was a light tapping on the door, and a familiar face peeked through the door. "Can I come in?" the young man asked. Charlie was excited. "Eli, come on in. What the heck are you doing here?" Eli Hawks was a 28-year-old native of the Potawatomi Nation in northeastern Kansas. He was also a first lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps, stationed in Yuma, Arizona, having graduated with honors from Kansas University, where he also completed his work in the Naval ROTC. Charlie first met Eli when he was only 11 years old. They met outside of a small retail store in Westmoreland, Kansas. Eli had decided to slip out of the store without paying for a few items, Charlie managed to stop the young boy on the sidewalk. Charlie's conversation with the young boy led Eli to a discussion with the store owner. After accepting Eli's confession and apology, the store owner asked Charlie, "Is this boy a friend of yours, mister?" Charlie smiled and answered, "He is today. Thank you for giving him a chance." Eli's father had died when he was just a baby, and his mom was doing everything she could to raise him the right way. He was a really good boy with some questionable friends. After they walked out of the store, Charlie looked at the boy and asked him the most important question of Eli's life. "Son, do you like milkshakes?" Charlie asked. "Yeah, yes, sir." Eli's eyes lit up. Charlie spent the rest of the afternoon with his newly discovered friend. Eli was captivated by the stranger who took an interest in his life. Charlie allowed him to talk. The more Eli talked, the more interested Charlie became. Charlie whispered a prayer as he listened to Eli's story. "Father, this feels like a divine appointment. I don't want to blow it. Give me wisdom to listen and a heart to hear, first from your spirit, and second from this beautiful little boy." That day began a wonderful friendship with a young boy who fell in love with Charlie. Charlie was involved in a number of outreach ministries to help with disadvantaged kids in the area. He made sure Eli was involved every chance he could. Eli was not just on the receiving end of Charlie's care. He learned and was eager to serve as well. Today, this handsome, intelligent, and sweet-spirited Marine was standing at the bedside of a man for whom he held a special kind of love and admiration. "Okay, Charlie, what kind of mess have you gotten yourself into?" Eli joked. "You know me, Eli. I'm just doing a little gold brick to get out of having to work around the house." Charlie laughed. "I'm hoping to break out of this joint today or tomorrow. The Jell-O's not bad, but I could sure use a fat burger." After an hour or so, the nurse came in and broke up the conversation. As they parted, Charlie looked up at Eli. "How long will you be home?" Eli answered, "I'm just here for a long weekend. I spent some time with Mom, but I have to fly back this weekend." "The Marine Corps treating you right?" Charlie asked. "It's not exactly a cakewalk," Eli answered, "but I think I have a great future there." "I'm really proud of you, Eli." Charlie looked at his young protege with the admiration of a father figure. "Charlie, you know that I love you, but I had a short chat with a special woman in your life. She might have told me you were not being as careful as you should with this disease. Please know that I will do anything I can to help you out," Eli offered. "You have to take better care of yourself. You mean a lot to me." "Nag, nag, nag. She worries too much," Charlie laughed. "Charlie, you know better than that," Eli responded. "Do what she says, capiche?" "Loud and clear, my friend," Charlie answered. "Next time you're up this way, let's find some time to do a little fishing." "You got it," Eli answered, as he hugged Charlie and headed out the door. Brother Doug, Mercy Hospital, January 7th, 2014, Friday morning. Charlie was just a couple of hours away from being discharged. His vital signs were looking much better, but the painful, itching lesions would still go home with him, along with the expectation of a return trip in the near future. Claire was at his side when another familiar face peeked through the door. "Brother Doug," Claire greeted him with a smile. "Come on in and sit down. Maybe you can talk some sense into my stubborn husband." "That's your job, Claire," Brother Doug laughed. "I'm just here to visit for a few minutes." Reverend Doug was the founding pastor of Heartland Community Church, where Charlie and Claire had been members most of their lives. Now in his late 80s, Brother Doug, as everyone called him, was long retired from his active position with the church, but was still active in his hospital and nursing home visitation. "I'm going downstairs to get me a cup of coffee and leave you two alone to talk for a while," Claire spoke as she headed for the door. Thanks for coming, Brother Doug. Charlie smiled. I really appreciate it. But I will be fine. I just have to keep moving forward and trust God. Charlie, the pastor spoke instructively, you can take off your church face. I know you too well. Tell me how you really feel, deep down in your heart. I really want to know. Thanks, Doug. Charlie's countenance fell a little. It's been very hard to hold my faith with all that we've gone through, but you have taught me well, and I know deep in my heart that God is in control. But the voices in my head keep asking why, and I have no answers. To be truthful, Charlie spoke frankly, I really don't want to know why this is happening. I just want God to make this nightmare go away. Claire is pretending to be strong for my sake. We have always tried to lean on each other, but... Charlie's voice trailed off. Charlie? Brother Doug responded. If I had the power, I would make it all go away. Prayer works, but it is still up to God when it comes to reasons, answers, and his timing. How's your health, Brother Doug? Charlie changed the subject. You're looking mighty good for a man over 30. He laughed. Just by 50 years or so, Doug answered. But I can still cut firewood and ride a horse with the best of them. The two men laughed as the nurse came in with discharge papers. Brother Doug closed the conversation with a short prayer. Lord, you know Charlie's heart. You know Claire's. You hold them both in your righteous right hand. We don't pretend to understand. I do pray for healing, but we pray for your will to be done in and through this family's time of trial. In Jesus' name, amen. Psalm 42, June 28th, 2014, Saturday. Charlie was impatient with his attempts to manage his disease better, but he hated spending time in the hospital. That fact provided him the incentive to discipline himself for the longer term. His last hospitalization was back in January. One side effect of managing the disease was that it made him less productive in managing the ranch. The symptoms would increase when he tried to push himself, signaling him to slow down. It was a vicious cycle of frustration. Claire continuously reminded him that he had a choice. He could pace himself or push and end up in the hospital. Charlie knew she was right, but that did not help mitigate the frustration. Charlie managed to hire 2 day workers to help carry the load, but that, in turn, put more pressure on an already tenuous financial situation. As Charlie took his early morning ride to his quiet spot on the hill, he wrestled with the tension in his own life. As always, Bandit came along for the ride. Charlie sat down on his favorite log, and Bandit took his place at his side. He opened his Bible to Psalm 42. This was a familiar passage to Charlie. Brother Doug and Pastor Pete had preached from it several times. As a deer pants for flowing streams, so pants my soul for you, O God. My soul thirsts, God, for the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? My tears have been my food day and night, while they say to me all the day long, where is your God? Charlie paused for reflection when he came to the phrase, my tears have been my food day and night. You know, Bandit, Charlie quietly spoke to his canine companion, I'm not sure I've noticed that verse before. God talks about a deer that is so thirsty for God. Right now, I'm just numb. I'm trying to remain faithful. Sometimes I'm just going through the motions. But the more I reflect on the tears, the more I realize how much the pain has overtaken the deep down thirst that the deer has. Charlie continued his reading with verses 4 and 5. These things I remember as I poured my soul. How would I go with the throng and lead them in procession to the house of God with glad shouts and songs of praise? A multitude keeping festival. Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation. Charlie looked away from his Bible. Rubbing his eyes, he whispered, somewhat sarcastically, "Really? Why am I cast down?" What a question. Could it be the lingering pain of burying my children? How about the destruction of my way of life, or the financial stress, my wife's cancer, or my inability to complete a day's work without pain? Why am I cast down indeed? As he continued his reading, he reached verses 8 and 9. By the day, the Lord commands his steadfast love, and at night his song is with me. Prayer to the God of my life. I say to God, my rock, why have you forgotten me? Why do I go mourning because of the oppression of the enemy? Again, putting his Bible down, Charlie whispered, "Bandit, I guess I'm like the guy who said, 'Lord, I believe. Now help my unbelief.' Everything I've learned growing up tells me the Lord has not and will not abandon me, but every aching bone in my body is shouting the opposite." When Charlie finished his daily Bible reading, he turned to the Lord in prayer. "Lord, you know I'm not in a good mood right now. I also know that you promised to be here with me, even in times when my heart and mind are not aligned with yours. Today, I'm going to leave it up to you to overcome my will and my desires. God, I wish I didn't feel this way. In my heart, I know that you hear my prayers, but in my mind, it feels like we are so far apart. Claire is stressed. I don't want her to be. I don't want her to be. She is doing a better job of taking care of the kids than I am. Lord, I can't stand feeling so weak," Charlie cried out, and a tear began running down his cheek. "I hate being helpless. Most of all, I'm so tired of this never-ending pain. I just want to roll over and quit." At that moment, Charlie abruptly ended his prayer, mounted his ride, and headed back down the hill to the house. Charlie met him with a fresh cup of coffee on the back patio. "Sit down, sweetheart," she began. "I can see it in your face." "I have a lot to do today," Charlie answered her. "I can't just lay around and do nothing. I haven't done an honest day's work in over a week." "Give it another couple days," Claire responded. "Why don't you ride over to see Jack? Get your mind off things. He always seems to lift your spirits." Charlie took Claire's advice and spent the rest of the morning with Jack. They were great friends and never ran out of things to talk about. Claire was right. The company of a good friend is always good medicine for a man who is overwhelmed by circumstances. As Charlie pulled up in his dad's 1972 Ford F-100, Jack was waiting for him down by the stables. "Hey, Charlie," Jack called down. "I am so glad you came over. I have something to show you." "Morning, Jack," Charlie responded. "Man, you look rough this morning," Jack answered. "Anything going on with you today?" "Not really," Charlie answered. "This skin crap. Jack, to be honest, my energy level is so low, I'm having trouble putting one foot in front of another." "Well, what can I do to help?" "Oh, Jack, you know me well enough." Charlie managed to laugh. "When I get this way, I whine and moan a little. I indulge my own pity party. But in the long run, I find a way to get off my butt and shake it off. I'll be okay. So what's up with you?" "I got Claire's note about tomorrow, but we're going to be out of town," Jack began. "But I do want to show you something." Charlie was a bit perplexed. "What note?" he thought to himself. "Am I starting to forget things now?" But Jack kept talking as they moved into the stable area. "Take a look, Charlie." Jack pointed at a beautiful black coat standing in the stall next to his mother. "Wow, he's beautiful. When did he arrive?" Charlie replied. "Hey, little guy, welcome to this world. Have you named him yet?" "He was born yesterday," Jack answered. "As for his name, I thought I would leave that up to you, Charlie." Up to me? Charlie was confused. Charlie, I remember how much you loved Harley and, well, since he died, you haven't had a horse of your own. I know you have some good working horses at Shiloh, but... No, Jack. Charlie cut him off. Jack, this is way too much. I can't let you do this. Charlie. Jack's eyes began to water. You have no idea how much you have meant to me over the years. After this little guy is weaned, I'm bringing him over to your place, and that's that. And I would prefer him to have a name. Capiche? Oh, Jack. Charlie was speechless. Looking at the single white star on the colt's forehead, Charlie answered, What do you think about Blackjack? Hello, Blackjack, Jack announced. You'll be moving to Shiloh in a few months. Charlie here will take good care of you. Hey, Jack, Charlie offered. You have to let me cover his expenses while he is still here. We will work something out, Jack answered. I really wanted you to have this coat. With your birthday coming up on Monday, I figured the timing was right. Charlie could hardly control his emotions on the drive back home. As she began to tell Claire about Jack's gift, he quickly figured out that she already knew. That thought reminded me about Jack's reference to a note. Claire, Jack said something about a note and his not being able to be here tomorrow, Charlie inquired. Is there something I need to know? The look of disappointment on Claire's face was telling. It was just another dumb idea. Let's forget about it, she said. If it's important to you, it is important to me, Charlie answered her as a tear began to appear on her cheeks. Baby, what's up? It was supposed to be a surprise birthday party for you, Claire began. I wanted to have a big party like we used to have, with all of our friends, and she paused as Charlie put his arm around her. Charlie, I am so mad at people who claim to be your friends and make up lame excuses for why they can't be here. The frustration in her voice was clear. It's all right, Charlie answered. It hurts, but in a way I understand. In times of trial, a lot of people show up at first, but after a while, they get uncomfortable. They feel helpless, and they begin avoiding you. It's like you have some kind of plague. That's no excuse for abandoning a friend. Claire was incensed. We still have a lot of true friends, Charlie offered. Those are the important ones, you know. I guess, Claire answered, but it still hurts. So let's have a party tomorrow afternoon, Charlie answered. Me, you, and the kids. What do you say? For the sake of his bride, Charlie was working hard to cover up his own feelings toward his former friends. He desperately wanted to lash out, but Claire needed his words of comfort. Luke and Dale are both on duty until 3 o'clock, Claire answered. They are still planning to come. Chris and Tina said they would be here as well. Sounds like a party to me. Charlie smiled at his bride. Thank you for doing this for me. I love you. Deani's Call, May 29th, 2015, Friday. Charlie woke up from a restless sleep and quietly slipped into the shower in an effort to avoid waking up his bride. Charlie knew that she was the one who was carrying more than her share of the family's financial stress. He had noticed that Claire was already up and sitting at the kitchen table. Hey, babe, Charlie began. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to wake you up. I've been awake for a good while, Claire answered. I just need to do some work on the finances before my day gets away from me. Need me to take a look? Charlie inquired. No, there's no point in both of us worrying about the same things. Besides, you have enough on your plate already. Claire tried to reassure him. Okay, sweetheart, Charlie answered. I'm going to take my Bible and sit outside for a little while. Call me if you need me. With that, Charlie went down to the picnic table next to the large oak tree beside their home. Even in the midst of his physical pain, Charlie tried to stay faithful with his morning time with the Lord. In the kitchen, Claire's stress was more than she had been willing to share with Charlie. Through her tears, she whispered her prayer. Lord, I know you are in control of all of this, but we are both nearing the end of our rope, and I can't seem to find any answers. Charlie is in a lot of pain, and I just can't bring myself to put this on him too. Please, God, reveal yourself to us. Please. Claire continued to sort the bills in order of their urgency. She separated the bills that she thought could be delayed. She would make calls to those later in the day. A few moments later, the kitchen phone rang. The voice on the other end of the line was that of Deani Begay. Of course, Deani. You know we will be happy to do anything to help. Charlie or I will be over in a little while. As Charlie walked back into the house, Claire met him at the door. Charlie, that was Deani on the phone. She didn't sound very well, and she asked if one of us could come over and get Benji for a couple of days. Claire's voice trailed off. Charlie, she really sounded bad. I'll get over there right now, Charlie answered. I don't have anything urgent going on today. When Charlie arrived at Deani's home, he found 6-year-old Benji standing alone on the porch. When Deani answered the door, she looked like she had been crying for hours. Her hair was unkempt, and her clothes looked like she had been sleeping in them. Deani. Charlie's voice revealed his concern. Deani, what's going on? Charlie, I am so sorry to call you this morning. Deani's voice was shaking. Do you mind taking care of Benji for a few days? I have not been honest with you. I'm going to get help this morning. Before Cody and I met, I had some drug problems, and he helped me get clean. After he died, I tried to stay clean, but now I'm really messed up. Please don't be mad, Charlie. Deani pleaded. It's okay, Charlie answered. I'm here to help. Let's get you to a hospital. I will get Claire to meet us and take Benji back to our house. After helping her get checked in at the hospital, Charlie returned home. Claire, I know a lot of this is going to fall on your shoulders, he apologized. Charlie, you can stop right there, Claire answered. We both love this little boy, and that settles it. I'm afraid it's going to be more than just a couple of days, though. We will find a way. We will stand by Deani's side. As for Benji, it's going to be a blessing to have him here with us for as long as it takes. 3 days went by without a call from Deani. Claire decided to make a visit to the hospital to check on her progress. The words of the hospital administrator caught her by surprise. I'm sorry, Miss Christian. Mrs. Begay checked herself out of the hospital yesterday morning. After several calls to her phone and ultimately a visit to her home, Deani was nowhere to be found. Inside her small home, most of the furniture was still in place. The dishes on the table were the same ones Charlie had seen when he picked her up a few days before. Child Services, July 14th, 2015, Tuesday. It has been more than 6 weeks since Deani's call. Charlie and Claire had made calls to everyone they thought might know where she was, but there was no success. On Monday, they received a call from Bonnie Carlin with the Kansas Department of Child and Family Services requesting an appointment. The following day, Miss Carlin arrived at the home of Charlie and Claire Christian. Mr. and Mrs. Christian, Mrs. Carlin began, I am here on behalf of the state of Kansas, and it is my job to make sure that Benjamin is taken care of until we can get everything sorted out. I'm not here to pass judgment or take the child away. It is our understanding, she continued, that you have not heard from the mother in several weeks. Mrs. Begay has an elderly mother with some health problems, Other than that, we have not been able to locate any other family members that might be capable of taking care of her son. Normally, we would remove the child and place him in short-term foster care, but this child has special needs. We don't see him that way, Miss Carlin, Claire interrupted. Benji is a special blessing. Hold on, Claire. Charlie put his hand on her arm. Let's let the lady finish what she is saying. I really do understand, Mrs. Christian. My niece also has Down syndrome. Miss Carlin smiled. But I have a job to do that is defined by the state. I would like to recommend leaving Benji with you for the short term, but I can only do so if you are willing to allow us to do our evaluation. What about Diani? Claire interceded. There's a lot of uncertainty there, Miss Carlin answered. We are not going to have any answers until we find her and get some answers. Until then, we need to take it one step at a time. I am assuming you are willing to go through the evaluation process and, if approved, you are willing to take full responsibility for the child's needs. Absolutely. Claire's response was unequivocal. After Miss Carlin left, Charlie took Claire into his arms. You are an amazing woman. With everything on your shoulders, you didn't waste a nanosecond to say yes to this. Charlie continued to hold Claire in his arms as he whispered another prayer. Lord, I am so grateful for this woman, but our heart is also with Diani. We pray for her safety and for her healing. I know you'll provide, but at least for the time being, we have 5 young mouths to feed, and that's a tall order. Give us strength. Most of all, give us wisdom to do it right. Amen. Their time of praying, waiting, and searching for Diani stretched from days to weeks, from weeks to months, and months to years. Diani could not be found. Reflection. August 29th, 2017, Tuesday. It was 3:00 a.m. Charlie was having trouble sleeping. In his wrestling, he started dwelling on his experiences over the past 8 years. It has been 2 years since Diani's disappearance, 4 years since his diagnosis, and 7 years since the deaths of Charlie's children. Claire was in a deep sleep as Charlie moved downstairs to keep from waking her. His pain had awakened him, but his mind was jumping from one thought to another. As he passed each of the children's rooms, he thought about how their lives would be different and how he wished their mom and dad were here to raise them. 10-year-old Noah's room was next to Hannah's, now 9. Hannah could barely remember her mom, who was taken away from her when she was only 9 months old. Caleb's twin daughters, Leah and Abby, now 8 years old, shared a room. Caleb would have made a great dad, Charlie thought to himself. These kids need more than a worn-out grandfather who can barely keep up. When he reached the room where Benji, who had just turned 9, was sleeping, Charlie whispered a prayer. Lord, you know I love this little boy, but it's been 2 years since his mom went missing, and he really needs his daddy. I just don't understand. As Charlie continued his walk toward the back patio, he thought of Claire and all she had been through over the past 8 years. Just over 5 years ago, she endured her battle with breast cancer. She fought that battle and still remained vigilant in taking care of these children. Reaching the edge of the patio, Charlie looked out at the landscape. Sunrise was still a couple of hours away, but the skies were clear, and the moon was nearly full, providing a silhouette of the hills on Charlie's ranch. At that moment, his pal Bandit came up by his side. Bandit, Charlie began, I am past the point of giving up. I want to quit, but I don't know how. We have exhausted all of our savings, and now we have a bank note that will soon come due. I've tried everything I can think of to rebuild this ranch. 8 years ago, we went from 1,500 head of cattle down to less than 100. Since then, we have barely been able to get that number up to a sustainable level. This disease has sapped my strength. It seems that we can't get a break. Beef prices have hurt us for the past couple of years. I need help, but I can't afford to hire anyone. On top of that, the guys I have hired are just not as good as the men I had before. Charlie sat down on one of the benches and put his head in his hands. Lord, I'm so thankful that you have given me such an incredible wife. She has stood by me through everything. I'm sure she is keeping a lot of her own pain and worry to herself. As his thoughts continued to focus on Claire, it suddenly hit him. Oh, crap! He looked down at Bandit. I completely forgot. Tomorrow is our 35th wedding anniversary. While I've been having my pity party, I haven't even considered the importance of the 35 years of ups and downs, the ins and outs, and the avalanche of battles that we have fought together. Bandit, it's your job to remind me of these things. Charlie managed to smile as he scratched behind the ears of his faithful friend.
That concludes part 4 of Charlie's story. Be sure and listen to part 5 as it comes up here on YouTube. It's entitled Willie's Creek. Thanks for listening.